Over 3,000 years ago, Egypt wasn't just a land. It was a belief system carved in stone. Among its mighty rulers, two names stood out: Ramsès II, the god-king of power, and Tutankhamun, the silent boy whose tomb changed history forever. Ramsès II didn't just rule Egypt. He redefined what it meant to be remembered. He reigned for 66 years, built more temples than any other pharaoh, and fathered over 100 children. His name was written into every stone to echo across eternity. But Ramses wasn't just building for himself. He was building a religion of memory. In every statue, he made himself divine, part man, part god. In every temple, his story became myth. While Ramses built his eternity, the world nearly forgot Tutankhamun. His reign was short, his achievements few, but fate had one final act, a tomb that would outshine them all. In 1922, British archaeologist Howard Carter made history. He opened a door untouched for 3,000 years. Inside, treasures, gold, and the boy king, perfectly preserved in silence. Tutankhamun was only 9 when he became pharaoh. By 19, he was dead. No grand legacy, no army, just one final gift to history, the only nearly intact pharaoh's tomb ever found. Why was Tutankhamun's tomb never robbed? Some say it was luck, others divine protection. And then came whispers, rumors of a curse on those who disturbed his rest. One by one, members of Carter's team fell ill. Some died. Newspapers called it the mummy's curse. But science pointed to mold and bacteria sealed in the tomb for centuries. But long before curses and gold, Ramses had a battle to fight. The mighty Battle of Kadesh. Tens of thousands clashed. Egyptians and Hittites, one of the largest chariot battles in history. Ramses claimed victory in stone, but the truth? It was likely a draw. Still, he made sure the temple said otherwise. He knew history favored the storytellers. Ramses turned temples into theaters of power. The temple of Abu Simbel wasn't just architecture, it was propaganda in stone. Colossal statues of himself flanked the entrance, daring time to forget his name. Inside Abu Simbel, scenes of gods and kings blend. Here, Ramses is not just pharaoh. He is divine, seated alongside the gods. His legacy is carved deeper than stone. It's in belief. Tutankhamun's time was far less grand. He inherited chaos. His father, Akhenaten, had defied the gods and torn Egypt's faith in two. Tutankhamun was just a child tasked with fixing a broken religion. Tutankhamun restored the old gods. He moved the capital back to Thebes, reopened sacred temples, and erased his father's monotheistic revolution. A child's reign, guided by powerful advisors with agendas of their own. But who was Tutankhamun really? Genetic tests reveal the truth. His parents were siblings. He suffered from malaria, a clubfoot, and bone disease. His body told a tale of pain, not glory. Ramses, in contrast, lived long and ruled hard. He battled pain in old age, with worn teeth and arthritis. But his mind, sharp as ever. His mummy shows a king who endured. When Ramses died, Egypt mourned like never before. His embalming was royal protocol, sacred ritual, and national theater. His soul, they believed, needed a complete body to cross into the afterlife. Tutankhamun's burial was rushed, perhaps unplanned. His tomb was small, some items borrowed, some broken, but it was sealed, and that act alone preserved a treasure trove lost to time. Among his treasures, 4 golden shrines nested like Russian dolls, chariots, statues, board games, perfumes, and weapons. Not just riches, but a reflection of everything the boy would need in eternity. In a curious twist, even 2 tiny mummified fetuses were found, possibly Tutankhamun's stillborn daughters. A silent, tragic footnote in a legacy written in gold, but born from sorrow. Ramsès II didn't stop at temples. He created an entire city, Ramesses, a vast new capital in the Nile Delta. It was grand, modern for its time, and boasted chariot stables, palaces, and vibrant trade routes. But centuries later, Ramesses disappeared. The river changed course, and the city was abandoned. Even Ramses's greatest creation was swallowed by nature, a reminder that not even pharaohs rule forever. As for Tutankhamun's tomb, its entrance was buried beneath debris from later tombs. Robbers missed it entirely. An accident of geography preserved the greatest treasure trove of Egyptian archaeology. The moment Carter peered through a small hole and said, "Yes, wonderful things," the world changed. For the first time, people could see the magic of Egypt through unplundered eyes. But behind every artifact was a deeper question. Why did a forgotten boy receive such an elaborate burial? Was it love? Guilt? Politics? Egypt doesn't give easy answers. Ramsès knew how to shape his story. He added his name to older monuments. He erased others' names. In Egypt, control of memory was power, and Ramsès mastered it. He even built a temple for his beloved queen, Nefertari. Her image stood equal in size to his, a rare honor. Their love story was etched in divine proportions. Tutankhamun II had a queen, Ankhesenamun, his half-sister. After his death, she vanished from history. Her fate remains one of Egypt's greatest unresolved mysteries. And what of the afterlife? Egyptians believed that to be remembered was to live forever. Without a name, a soul was doomed. Ramsès ensured his name would outlive kingdoms. Tutankhamun's name was nearly erased, but fate intervened. His treasures traveled the world. His golden mask became the face of Egypt. In death, he achieved what life had denied, immortality. One of Ramses's most stunning tributes lies at Luxor Temple. Though built by an earlier pharaoh, Ramsès expanded it grandly, placing towering statues of himself and carving scenes of his supposed military glory. He even built obelisks, one of which was gifted to France and now stands in Paris's Place de la Concorde. His legacy literally spans continents. In contrast, Tutankhamun built little. His name was meant to fade, but his untouched tomb gave modern civilization the closest glimpse into royal life, preserved in silence and gold. His burial items included board games, perfumes, linens, bows, and food jars. The boy king was sent into eternity with everything a ruler could need, except time. Ramsès left us propaganda carved in stone. Tutankhamun left mystery sealed in earth. One was obsessed with being remembered. The other became immortal by accident. The Book of the Dead was Egypt's guide to the afterlife. It contained spells, prayers, and rituals. Every king hoped to pass judgment and reach the field of reeds, Egyptian paradise. In the final judgment, a soul's heart was weighed against the feather of truth. If it was heavy with sin, a monster would devour it. If light, the soul passed on. Ramsès' name appears on countless temples, stelae, and statues, an effort to cheat mortality. He understood the power of stone over time. His strategy worked. Tutankhamun's name was nearly erased from history, but his tomb gave him something greater than power. It gave him presence. His story now teaches us more than his reign ever did. Today, Tourists still weep in awe before Ramses's statues and whisper before Tutankhamun's mask. Their legacies remind us greatness isn't always chosen. Sometimes it's preserved by chance. Sometimes it's carved by will. After Ramses II's death, his body was moved multiple times to protect it from grave robbers. It was eventually hidden with other royal mummies in a secret tomb cache. When his mummy was finally discovered in the 19th century, it was remarkably preserved. His hooked nose, deep-set eyes, and regal profile made him instantly recognizable, even in death. In 1976, France gave Ramses a passport to fly him in for restoration. His occupation? King, deceased. Even modern nations recognize the gravity of his identity. In Paris, experts treated Ramses's mummy for fungal decay. Crowds lined up not just for a mummy, but for a king. It was a second funeral, 3,000 years late. Tutankhamun's remains, meanwhile, stayed in Egypt. His mummy was fragile, his death sudden. Some believe he fell from a chariot. Others think illness took him. We may never know. Incredibly, even in death, Tutankhamun suffered theft. Ancient robbers snuck in shortly after burial, but were scared off. A few oils and gems vanished, but they left behind a legacy. What makes their stories last? Ramses wrote his with power, Tutankhamun with silence. But both lives were ultimately shaped by how others chose to remember them. Every ruler tries to cheat time. Some build pyramids, others raise statues. But no monument can outlast a story. Ramses and Tutankhamun still live because we still tell their tales. History isn't just about rulers. It's about choices. Ramses chose dominance. Tutankhamun had no choice. And yet, both now stand side by side in the pantheon of Egypt's eternal kings. The sands of Egypt once buried them. Time tried to erase them, but here we are, still watching, still learning. In every grain of dust, their voices remain, and their immortality endures. Ramses II's temples weren't just religious, they were political. His image was everywhere, towering over cities, carved beside gods, reminding everyone who ruled both earth and heaven. At Karnak, Ramses added columns, statues, and inscriptions. Every brick whispered his name. He didn't just build for his gods, he built to outshine every pharaoh before him. Tutankhamun's image is gentler. On his throne, he's shown with his queen, Ankhesenamun, offering him perfume. It's an image of affection, rare in Egyptian royal art. This human moment, simple love between a boy and his queen, makes Tutankhamun's story feel real. Unlike Ramses, he wasn't larger than life. He was simply alive. One left monuments, the other left mystery, but both left behind lessons about power, memory, fragility, and time. Egypt preserved them so we could reflect on our own mortality. In modern times, Tutankhamun's treasures have toured the world. Millions have stood in line just to glimpse his mask. It's not gold that draws them, it's wonder. Meanwhile, Ramses II was honored again in 2021. Egypt held a pharaoh's golden parade, moving his mummy and others through Cairo in royal fashion. His procession finally matched his pride. As his coffin passed, Egyptians wept. For a moment, history felt alive again. Ramses had returned home not just to a museum, but to the hearts of his people. Tutankhamun II now rests in peace. His mummy returned to his original tomb in the Valley of the Kings. The silence there speaks louder than applause. Ramses built to be eternal. Tutankhamun survived by accident. Yet today, both are icons. Their faces adorn textbooks, museums, and dreams. Not even death could silence them. Their stories span millennia, yet they echo the same questions we ask today. Who am I? Will I be remembered? What legacy do I leave behind? Ramses's name is carved on more monuments than any other pharaoh. Each inscription isn't just text, it's a shout through time. I was here, I mattered. Tutankhamun's legacy rests not in stone, but in gold and mystery. The world didn't just find a tomb, it found a mirror reflecting its thirst for the unknown. Even today, archaeologists search Egypt's sands for answers. Do more tombs lie beneath? Could another chamber hold Nefertiti, Tut's mother, or Akhenaten, his heretic father? The deeper they dig, the more Egypt speaks, not just of kings, but of workers, artists, lovers, and scribes. A civilization built not only by rulers, but by hands. In Deir el-Medina, village of royal tomb builders, everyday life was documented. Jokes, debts, rivalries. These people built eternity while living ordinary lives. Even graffiti remains. On tomb walls, workers scribbled personal notes. I was here. Today I was lazy. Missed my wife. Small words, big humanity. It's this duality, monuments and mistakes, gold and graffiti, that keeps Egypt real. Ramses and Tut were gods to some, but they were human first. Whether in golden procession or silent glass box, their presence still commands reverence. You don't need to know hieroglyphs to feel their weight. Their stories remind us, memory is fragile, yet powerful. Carved in rock or sealed in silence, a legacy only survives when we choose to listen. In the end, Ramses crafted his legacy with purpose, chiseled in temples, echoed in scrolls. Every wall was a megaphone, every statue a headline. He would not be forgotten. Tutankhamun, the accidental icon, never asked for fame, but fate gave him something Ramses spent a lifetime chasing: undying attention. They never met. Their reigns were separated by time and ideology. Yet history fused their names in the same breath. Because Egypt doesn't forget her kings. Both men were worshipped in life and dissected in death. Mummies scanned, DNA tested, curses debunked. And yet mystery clings to them like linen. What remains is not just gold or stone, but story, and story, unlike monuments, cannot be buried. It only waits to be heard again. So as you walk through a museum or gaze at a mask on screen, pause. You're not just seeing an artifact, you're meeting a memory. Ramses spoke to his people in thunder. Tutankhamun whispers across time. Two voices, one kingdom, and a legacy still alive in dust and dream. From the Valley of the Kings to museums across the world, their stories travel farther than their armies ever did. Stories march on when swords rest. Egypt reminds us, greatness isn't always about power. Sometimes it's about presence. And presence lingers in stone, in silence, in gold. So whether king of 1,000 temples or boy in a hidden tomb, both found eternity, not just in Egypt, but in us. Walk the Nile's banks and listen carefully. You'll hear whispers carried in the wind, not just of gods and kings, but of craftsmen, children, and forgotten prayers. Each grain of sand might have touched a god, each shattered pot, a memory. Egypt's past isn't gone. It sleeps beneath our feet. The treasures of Egypt aren't just gold. They're questions. How did a child become king? Why did a man become a god? And why do we still care? We search tombs not just for the dead, but for ourselves. To feel awe. To believe in something older, larger, more eternal than we are. Ramses had victories carved on temple walls. Tutankhamun had love etched into furniture. One ruled with power, the other ruled our imagination.